Hello everyone, it's Kim from Fleece and Harmony. Welcome to our knitting and crochet podcast, recorded here in our yarn shop, which is in our woolen mill, which is on our sheep farm in Belfast, Prince Edward Island. So welcome to everybody. If you haven't joined us before, this is a podcast that kind of rambles all over the place. We talk about our farm, we talk about wool, we talk about knitting. We do quite a lot of knitting, and we make yarn in our mill, which I'll show. And we're also a Rowan flagship store, so we always are featuring something about Rowan as well. So this is November 25th. If you're watching when we launched the podcast, and it's podcast number 85. 85. It's hard to believe, but that's where we are. So just a couple little housekeeping things before we really get started. I do create chapters in this video, so if you go below, you'll be able to see the different segments that we'll do, and the chapters and the time signatures are there. And you can also see them if you're watching on a computer or I'm not sure if it's on the mobile phone or not, but you might see the chapters along the bottom if you scan along the bottom of the video. So the first thing we're going to do today is the farm update. Then we don't really have a finished project, but we'll make something up. And we have some works in progress, a number of them. We're also going to have a little segment about crocheting the llamas. If you recall, a couple episodes ago, I did an interview with Betsy Campbell from Lovin Llama, and she's actually going to teach me how to crochet one of the llamas. I'm really excited. So we're going to show that segment. And we have a shop update as usual, and we're going to talk about the Prince Edward Island Fibre Festival, which will take place in September 2022. So you want to stay tuned for that as well. So first of all, we're going to talk about what's happened on the farm in the last 2 weeks, and it's we thought it was going to be winter, but it's actually not winter yet. Right now we're in the midst of a rainfall warning, and it was 11 degrees Celsius today, which is absolutely crazy for nearly the end of November. But it's been pouring for 2 days and really, really windy. So not very nice, but everybody is snug in their little barns. So the sheep are in their barn munching away, and the rabbits are in their rabbit hutch as well. I was also almost in the rabbit hutch and not able to get out, because when we go in to feed the rabbits, we have a door that's on a spring because we want to make sure that they can't get out, even if we don't put the door closed right away. So the door is on the spring and it closes, and then we have just a really simple old school wooden block that we twist to keep the door locked of the hutch. And I was in there around petting these rabbits and doing other stuff, and Ken was all finished with his stuff. He was cleaning the water dish, and he finished that, and he left to go in the house. And we're so accustomed to closing every gate and locking every door behind us so no animals get out. He actually locked me in the rabbit hutch. So I was in there, and by the time I noticed, he had already gone out of the little shed barn that the rabbit hutch is in, and I was yelling to him at the top of my lungs, Ken, come back! You locked me in the rabbit hutch! But he was gone. So I don't know where he went, if he went to put wood in the furnace or whatever, but he wasn't coming back. So I was contemplating about how long I was gonna be stuck there before he'd noticed that I didn't come in for breakfast. But I thought about the fact we always carry like pen knives in our pockets for cutting hay bales, string, and that kind of thing. And I thought to myself that I might just be able to get the blade of my pen knife in between the door and the casing, and if it didn't collapse on me, I would be able to move the block and try to push it up and see if I couldn't get it flat. I guess I actually put the blade in and went down to try to get the block square against the door frame so that it wasn't over the door, and it wasn't that easy. I have to say, I was starting to get a little bit panicky because the knife just wasn't quite long enough to really do a good job to get good leverage, but I was able to do it, and I got out of the rabbit hutch and was able to get my breakfast. But I was contemplating spending, I don't know how long it would be before he would come looking for me. I guess he'd get worried at some point. But anyway, I was prepared to spend the day with the rabbits, but then we only do the rabbits once a day, so I don't know, I might have been there overnight. I think he would have come to look for me if I hadn't showed up for lunch. So for sure. Anyway, so that was some excitement. That's about the most exciting thing that's happened, which is great. If that's as exciting as it gets, that's good. We also have, we had to put blankets on the horses. So normally in the winter when it's snowing, we wouldn't put blankets on the horses because they have winter coats, like their fur is fine to keep them warm. If it's really, really nasty, we have a run-in that we can put them in. But for normal weather, day-to-day weather, we wouldn't put their blankets on them. But we did in this case because the temperature is going to fluctuate between close to freezing and then up to 11 and then back down to close to freezing. So that's not good. And when it's windy, it's hard for them to keep their body temperature up, even though they've got free choice food and everything. But we figured it's just better to give them a little bit of protection. So they have their blankets on and they're well protected from this kind of. When it's close to freezing, that's the most uncomfortable temperature for animals. It goes for the sheep as well. Although the sheep they go in and out of the barn in the winter, and they're actually mostly out, even when it's raining. It's just when it gets down close to zero and windy and raining that all the animals seek shelter. So we make sure that they have that. So that's it for the farm update, and I would suspect that by the next time we record, we may have a snowfall because that's what happens in November around here. You'll get little snowfalls, but they don't stay. We don't really have an accumulation of snow until well into December or January normally. So, which is kind of good, I guess. Although nasty, rainy, windy days like today, we'd prefer almost to have a little bit of snow instead of that weather. Anyway, we're not going to complain. We're all safe and snug, and we're cozy, warm, and everybody's good. So we're just gonna roll with that for this. So I just want to talk about what I'm wearing in case people haven't seen it before. So this is the Even Dune pullover by Kate Davies, and it's knit in our Selkirk worsted yarn. I haven't worn this since I wore it on the podcast where I announced that it was finished and it was a finished object, and it is so cozy and nice, and the worsted yarn is so kind of silky and lovely that I have this up in the shop as a sample, but I think I'm going to have to recoup it and start wearing it more often because it's perfect for this kind of weather in the dampness and so forth. So like I said, done in our Selkirk worsted, and this was my project for the Kate Davies knit along. So I'm going to talk about Kate Davies knit along right now because this is the last week. Well, as I said, this will be published on November 25th and the knit along ends on November 30th. So you'll just have 5 more days to complete your projects. And we've talked about this a lot. So there's 2 areas where you can post your finished projects, and we'll draw from those two threads to draw for the prizes that we have. And the threads are, there's one in Ravelry. So there's 2 threads in Ravelry under our group. And one of them is to talk about your projects, and the other one is to post your finished objects. So you need to post in that thread for finished objects in order to be considered for the draw. I'm not going to look at the chat one to look to see if everybody finished their stuff that they started talking about. I'm only going to go to the finished object one, so you can take a look or post your project in there. The other place where I will get names for the draw is on our own community thread, which is hosted on our website. And if you go to that community thread, there is 2 threads for the Kate Davies knit along, one for chatter and picking out patterns and looking at things like that during your works in progress, and the other one which is for finished object, and it's the same deal. you have to post your finished object in the finished object thread, and I will put the Ravelry finished object thread and the our community forum finished object thread, all of those names together to do the draws. We have 3 prizes. We have a set of shorty needles by Chiagu, and those are the shorty blue set. I can never remember exactly what the needle size is. I think it's 3.25 to 5, but I will write it down below again on the bottom, like I always have to, because I can never quite get it straight. And so that was been donated by Estelle Yarns. So we'll draw for that needle set. The other main prize is also been donated, and that was donated by Kate Davies. So if people aren't aware, Kate obviously has designs yarns, so she has yarns, her own yarns. She also writes books, obviously. We have them all if you want to order them. And she also does knitted, like designs knitted wear that's already complete. So she has sent us a cowl, the North Star cowl, that is already knitted, so you don't have to knit anything. You're just gonna, whoever wins the prize will have that beautiful cowl to wear around. And Kate Davies also sent us a journal, a knitting journal with her logo for knitting season on the front of it, and a pencil to go with it, so you can write your notes about your projects in that book. So those are the 3 prizes, and we'll be drawing them probably on December 1st, and we'll be letting people know who won and what they won, probably through the thread. And I'll announce the winners on the next podcast as well, because there are some pretty fantastic projects in there. So I will probably do a little bit of a slideshow showing some of the great projects, and then we'll announce the winner, which will be a random draw. So that's the Kate Davies knit along. So without further ado, I always say that, but without further ado, we're going to talk about the works in progress which are being done. So of course there's the Paisley, but I'm going to save that till the end, because we're going to talk about some details about that. I didn't show my tungsten sweater that I'm knitting, and that's a pattern from Rowan magazine number 70, knit in felted tweed. I didn't show that in the last podcast because I hadn't made a lot of progress, because I was working to finish my Paisley. I'm going to show it again, but I have to admit there's not a lot of progress on it. Once again, I think I've only done like a few tiny amount of rows. So I am just going to get this, and I'm going to talk about it partly because somebody gave me a great suggestion in the comments about handling this intarsia part. It's just caught on my needle here. So I'll do a close-up picture. I don't want to move all these. Intarsia is really something special. Just saying. All right. So I'm going to talk about these lines that are going up through the diamond in the Argyle pattern, which you should be able to see pretty well now, especially now that it's going over the dark. So I've chosen a color for those lines that is low contrast to the main body color, but higher contrast to the Argyle diamond. So you should be able to see that. So I have been knitting this with all of these little bobbins that, so there you go. That's the problem. I did them as butterflies, then I did them as balls, and now I'm back to doing them as balls. I don't know. Anyway, there's a number of them because each of these lines needs its own little bobbin to do it. And there's one hanging there. So somebody wrote to me in the comments and said, why don't you do duplicate stitch for the lines? And I was like, really, duh, yes, why don't I? Since I actually did a tutorial about how to do duplicate stitch and showed you how to get it almost perfect. So I'm just trying to figure out now if I can actually start doing duplicate stitch even though I'm halfway through. So this is actually the back of the sweater. So what I might have to do is I might have to finish doing the back of the sweater with the intarsia the way that I'm doing it, but on the front I'm going to try the duplicate stitch, and I think I may be able to get away with it continuing on in the back as well, but it's just going to take a little bit of experimentation, and I haven't had a chance to do that. So that was a really, really good suggestion, and I cannot believe that I didn't think of it myself, because then I would only have work with two colors instead of the three, and I wouldn't have all these little bobbins. So just again, so you can see what we're talking about. So that's what I'm going to try. So as you know, if you've been watching for a while, I'm always up for some kind of a knitting adventure and experimenting. So that's what's going to happen with tungsten. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the whip that I showed the last time, which is not mine. It's Jennifer Hicks. She lent me her sweater again to talk about. So it is knit in Kid Classic by Rowan in this beautiful, beautiful mulberry color. It's just gorgeous. And this yarn, I talked about it the last time. It's so lovely, and it's lovely to knit. It's almost a worsted weight. Maybe it is considered a worsted weight, so it knits up really quickly. The sweater is, oh, she's got everything organized here for me. She's got her Cocoa Knits stitch stoppers on here, which don't move, so that's good. She does have a little marker there because she had split a stitch, so she's going to go back and fix that, so you can do that too. Maybe we'll get her to show us what she's going to do when she fixes it. So this is the Elda sweater in 4 projects in Kid Classic. So that's a Rowan book with 4 projects, and the Elda sweater is one of them. And it's a fisherman knit sweater, or fisherman rib sweater, and she's making really good progress on this, and I'm going to show you a picture of what it looks like in the book. It's done in, I can't remember if it's cement or pumice in the book. I think it's cement is the gray color, and but Jennifer has done it in the mulberry, and it's just beautiful. And this, the yarn is already squishy and delightful, but with this fisherman's rib, it's even more cozy. Jennifer has children that play hockey, so she spends a lot of time in a hockey rink and an ice rink in the winter. So this is going to be a sweater that she's going to use for that. And I just love the little side vents that are on the design. It's a really, really a beautiful, simple, classic pattern, and designed by Quail Studio. So that's the progress that Jennifer did. I'm hoping she's going to model it for us when she's done, because I'm sure it's going to be beautiful on her. So that's Elda, and the pattern is from 4 projects in Kid Classic by Quail Studio. The next whip is, of course, the Paisley. It might be, I don't know how much longer it's going to take me to knit it. There's no knitting left except for the button band, and I have only one sleeve that's loose because I've put in the other sleeve. So I'm just going to show you. Last time we were together, I cut the steeks, and I was always calling steeking. For me, it was the whole process of steeking. So knitting the steek and then cutting the steek was all steeking to me, but apparently that's not really correct. You knit the steek and then you cut them. So steeking is not cutting the steek, it's actually knitting it. And cutting them is just cutting the steeks. So it's not steeking, anyway. You get what I mean. So now I stand corrected. I'm going to be more precise about that in the future. So the first sleeve is in, and so it's been sewn in, and somebody asked if I would show how I set the sleeves in. So I'm actually going to do a video to show you how I'm going to set the sleeves in on the other side. So what we have happening here is that when the steeks were cut, there was sleeve steeks on the sleeve, and we cut up here like this, and then these two flaps over the shoulder were loose. So you just had the arm was open. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to close off the shoulder. So you had to join the shoulder seams, which I did. And I always sew using mattress stitch, because you actually sew mattress stitch from the public side of the garment. So you're sewing on the front side. So it's really, I find it very easy then to make sure that everything is lined up that has to be, and to keep it really neat. So that's why I use mattress stitch. You can also use back stitch, but then you're working from the back side of the fabric, and I prefer to work from the front. There is a tutorial that I did on mattress stitch, so you can check that out if you're not sure how to do it. But you can see that it really gives a very neat, result, and very straight. So there was also a front steek which was cut, and so then what happens here is you have this just the armhole, and you have to fit in a full sleeve that's already been joined. So because the sleeves are knit in the round, you have the sleeve is closed, and you have to join it into this hole. I've never done this before. I usually knit sweaters in pieces, or I've done a few top-down sweaters, but I've never had this where I've had the armhole done and fully closed in, and the seam, there's no seam here, and the sleeve, which is also loose and round and closed in. Normally in a piece sweater, you would do the front, you would do the back, you do your sleeves, and the sleeves are open, and you can sew your sleeves into the arm shaping, and you do, once you have them fitted into the arm shaping, then you do a seam all the way from the bottom through the arm pit area, and then right down the sleeve, and it's one continuous seam. So this was a little bit challenging for me, I would say, because I hadn't done it before. And I'm going to show you a video of how to fit it in. It seemed a little bit daunting. I was a little bit worried about it, but when I work through it, you'll see it's fairly straightforward. You just have to kind of remember the directions that you're joining the pieces together. So I'm just going to, before we go to that video, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how this looks. I think it turned out pretty neat. It's very neatly, because I took a lot of time to do it. So I think the key to success of this is taking your time and making sure that you are keeping the stitches even. And what I did is there's a little kind of faux side seam here with the purl stitched down the side of the sweater. So where the patterns join, right between where the patterns are, there's like a faux seam there made with a purl stitch. And you have the same thing on the sleeve. So what I wanted to make sure was that the faux seam on the sleeve and the faux seam on the sweater were lined up as if they were going to be sewn up like how I described earlier. But I didn't want to start my seaming down here and end my seaming at the top, because this is going to be much more on view on the top of the shoulder and around the front and the back than the underarm. So what to do? So what I did was I decided that I would start at the top seam, find the middle of the sleeve top, which was easy enough to do. It's I think it's 9 stitches on the top. So I just picked the middle one, and I started at the seam, and I worked down 1/2. So I went down the back first, because that was going to be practice, and then I stopped sewing, and I had an end that was here, like right at the fake side seam there, and then I started again at the top for the front, and I went down there. So when I got to the underarm, I was able to make sure that it was in the right place, because the last thing I want it to have happen is that I get the sleeve sewn in and then it not be set in the sleeve opening correctly, and then it would twist or something like that when I wore it. So that's how it turned out, and I'm going to show you exactly what I did there. Before we go to the video though, I do want to make one more comment, is that if you remember from the last podcast, one of my sleeves is slightly longer than the other, and a very helpful viewer, Brenda, thank you very much, said that one arm is probably slightly longer than the other as well. So try to figure out which arm that is and put the slightly longer sleeve on the slightly longer arm, and then it'll be less noticeable. I did that, and I knew that the amount that it was longer was one of these repeats of this. So it's this little square. That's how much longer the sleeve was. So it's not that much. So I've got the longer sleeve on the side, which has my longer arm. And then when I sewed in the sleeve at the top, I actually went a little bit deeper on the fabric to take a little bit more of the excess into the seam that I made. And you can totally do that. There's no problem. You don't have to follow the exact edge of the sleeve. So I just took it in like maybe one stitch. So that just shortened it a little tiny bit more, and I think it's going to be absolutely fine. So between having the long sleeve on my long arm and having taken in one more stitch out of the 3 that make up the pattern, I'm pretty sure it's not really going to be very noticeable that that there was a little bit of a glitch there with the measuring. So let's go over and check out the video of how I sew this. It's quite long, so I'm going to speed up some parts, and but you'll get the essence of what I'm doing. And pay special attention to what happens when you have to seam. You've got stitches going one way and on an angle, and then you have stitches flat on the front, and you'll see how I handle that, because that's the part that gets a little bit like you're not sure exactly what direction you're going in. So you can go check that out right now. All right, so here we are with the sleeve of the Paisley, and I'm just going to show you what we're going to do first. So the top part of the sleeve has a flat area, which is the bind off, and we're going to find the middle of that when we get there, and we're going to attach that to the shoulder sleeve. And then the other important part is on the underside of the sleeve, where you have the purl stitches that go down here. This is where the increases took place as you were sewing the sleeve. So that seam needs to match up with the seam on the jacket. So the middle of the flat part of the top of the sleeve matches up with the shoulder seam, which I've already sewn. And we have our steeking lines on either side, so the zigzag stitches there. So we want to make sure that those are on the inside of the seam when we are doing the sewing up. And I'm just going to fold the garment so I can see where I'm going to insert my needles as I go through. So I'm going to insert right here where the pattern begins. And when I'm sewing, I'm going to use 2 legs of the stitches. On the front part, I did an alternating stitch where I did a light, dark, light, dark. That's not part of the pattern. That's actually part of the steek. So I want to make sure that that's inside the seam, and I'm going to use ladders between the rows of stitches on the front part. So because the stitches are going in 2 different directions on the 2 parts. So I'm just going to pick up 2 ladders. You will see a bit of thicker stitches in there because the color work is carried over as well. So if we take the top of the sleeve, I'm just going to fold it in half and put the corners together to get a rough idea. And then, as I said, we're going to put it right on the shoulder seam, and we're going to sew the back and the front so that the seams match on either side. So I'll sew down one side, and then I'll sew down the other, starting at the shoulder. So we're just going to anchor the yarn first, so we'll get that secure. Okay, so whoop, just have to put the needle in. And to get this started, just get my things organized here. Again, we're just going to check that double spot where we double over the top of the sleeve to see where exactly I'm going to put the needle in. And it's right between this line here and the waffle, the clear or the light color. Just kind of holding it together. So I'm going to go up from the inside to the public side on the shoulder seam on the jacket. Just pull that through. And then I'm going to also go from the inside to the public side on the sleeve. Do it in the same direction. Okay, then I'm going to go back to the jacket, and you don't go down from the public side, you go up again from the wrong side of the fabric, and that creates a figure 8. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little figure 8 there. That gives a more secure attachment for the sleeve and the shoulder. Just get this straight. It's a little bit fiddly at this part, so don't worry. And now I'm going to do the back first. I always do the back first because it's a little bit of practice, because you want to make sure that you get it as perfect as possible on the front. Just going to tighten this up and move the threads out of the way. And carefully looking to see where I'm going to make my first stitch. So again, I want to be right at the edge of the pattern, but I don't want any of the steeking to show. And we're going to crisscross back and forth. That's the way mattress stitch works. So we'll just get started. So we're just going to make sure that the steeking, as I said, and that we're flat. So I came up on the jacket back, so I'm going to take my first stitch on this sleeve. Okay, so I'll just pull that through. And so just want to look again at the pattern. So now on the jacket side, I'm going to go through the ladders, again, making sure that I'm not in the steeking area, but just at the edge of where the pattern starts. It's a little bit stiff because it's really close to the seam there, but I do have my 2 ladders. And like I said, you might have another thread there from the floats. And I'm not pulling my stitches tight. You can see I'm leaving them loose. Now we're going to go back to the sleeve, down through 2 legs. These stitches again are horizontal vis-a-vis the back, which is vertical. So we're just going to do that. And there's just a little knob there. So here we go, down 2 ladders and then back over to the sleeve. And there's just a little thread. I'm gonna just take that out. And okay, so here we're back. So I've just done a few stitches, and I want to I did pull them tight, but I want to check to make sure that when I line up the bottom of the underarm, that seam there with the purl, the faux seam on the jacket and this faux seam on the sleeve, I'm gonna line those up, and I'm just gonna make sure to see how much extra fabric or if it's even or not. So in this case, the it looks pretty close to being even, but if I just look down at the bottom, there's a little bit of extra fabric on the sleeve versus the jacket. So this is where I did my sloped bind off, and I'm going to make sure that that is all inside inside the seam. And so I'm going to go around there, and you're going to see that you're going to move your stitches slightly because of that decreasing. It's not going to be exactly the same, but every now and then, to keep this even, I'm going to take extra stitches on the sleeve section. So here we go. So back to what we were doing with the going down on the ladders on the jacket side. And over to the sleeve, and I always keep the yarn to the top because you don't want to get your needle down tied around the yarn. And you just rethread this, and we'll keep going. Again, down through the ladders. It's a bit repetitive at this point, but we will. I promise I'm not going to show you every single stitch I make. And on the sleeve, we're going to go on through the 2 legs, And you can really see here that I'm keeping the stitches fairly loose because we're going to tighten those up like the zipper, which I love on the mattress stitch. So all right, so now we're just going to tighten these up, and you see how it just comes together. I'm going to go fast now, so we'll just whip along through this, and you can see I'm pulling every few stitches or so 5 or 6 stitches that I pull. So now we'll just slow down and we'll look at where we are. We're coming up to a part where I did the decreases around the armhole, and on the back side that creates a bit of a ridge, and I don't really like the look of that on the jacket after it's been sewn up. So these decrease stitches I'm going to try to hide in the seam. So that means I need to shift over where I'm sewing a little bit because I've been following right along the edge, and I'm going to try to get right in the middle of this row of stitches. So there'll be a little bit, you'll be able to see a little bit of the edge of the decreases because I don't want to take up too much fabric, but you won't see them all and it'll be more subtle. But you have to start moving over at some point before you're actually there. You don't want a big jump over in the width of your sleeve stitching, or else you're going to have a pucker. So you have to plan ahead a little bit. I'm going to move over to the next half of a row, and just do a few more stitches, and just speed this up a little bit so you can see. All right, so now I've got my new track, and I'm going quickly down towards the end of the sewing, and you see that I keep checking and I keep pulling as I'm doing the stitches. So now we're at the underarm, and we're on the last couple stitches. So here I just want to be really careful that I'm sewing close because I want the underarm to be as strong as possible. So there's the purl stitch on the sleeve, and then there's the purl stitch on the jacket, and I just want to make sure that those are well sewn, because that point there is where we want to make sure that there's lots of strength in the seam that we're doing. Just kind of double them up a little bit and then pull it tight. And I'm going to bring the thread to the bottom because now I'm finished that half, the back half, and I'm going to just kind of whip it into the seam a little bit. This is not the finishing. I'll secure the end better afterwards when I'm sewing in all of the final ends, but I'm just going to put that there, and I'm leaving kind of a long tail because I want to make sure that I sew that in well. So now you can see that this seam is pretty smooth. It's not blocked or anything. So I think that's pretty good just to see how smooth the seam is, and the patterns match up really well. So I'm happy with that. And if I wasn't happy, I would take it out and redo it because there's so much work in this jacket. I want to make sure that I'm absolutely happy with the result when it's done. Okay, so here we are with the front of the jacket now. And I've just smoothed this out to take a look at it because I want to make sure that the two sides are going to be completely symmetrical when I sew in the sleeve. So I'm just going to pay attention to what the design looks like on the edge that I've already sewn, the other sleeve, and on the right sleeve, because I want to make sure that I'm picking a track that matches. So the paisley that's left showing is the same, or more or less the same, on both sides. So the front part here, I'm going to just double check to make sure where my design comes down. There's also some increasing that's done here, or decreasing, sorry, that's done here, but it doesn't disrupt the pattern as much as you can see here on the one that I've already done. So I'm going to actually stick to my original track that I'm going to do when I'm sewing. So I'll just get this organized, and again, we're just going to secure the yarn in the seam. And we're basically going to do the same thing that we did the last time. Just create a secure anchor for the yarn. And just getting these threads straightened out. It's a little bit late. So now we're just going to continue on.
exactly the same as what we did. We're going to come up through the seam first to get started, and then we're going to pick a side, and we're going to go back and forth, crisscrossing exactly like we did before. And I'm just going to look and see what the best path is. So here we go, up on the sleeve side, and then we will go across on to the jacket side. And I'm looking at where those steeking stitches were and where the pattern starts and the steeking stitches end. And again, it's a little bit stiff because we're just at the seam. And we're just going to keep going, give a little bit more of a close-up here. Again, we're going through ridges, or sorry, the V's on one side and down the rows on the other side. Just exactly the same as the back, and you're just going to pull that tight every couple stitches, just exactly the same thing as we did on the back. Again, the horizontal, you can see that the sleeve, you're going under the V's and then down the rows on the front, picking up the ladders in between. Just going to do a few of these stitches. Always seems to go faster on the front than the first one. Okay, so I'm still doing all of the checks. Every couple stitches I am doing a check to make sure that the length is okay. This one is going pretty smoothly, so I didn't have to stop and start, so I can just show you almost the whole thing. And full disclosure, I did take it out halfway through and then start redoing it, so this is the second time around. So now we're right at the underarm. And again, it's really stiff because now you've got the other seam there as well. So it's a little bit fiddly, but you just want to make sure that you have a nice finish in there, and you pull it tight, and you can barely see actually where the join is. So again, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just going to put the thread down. We're all done. It's a little bit tangly under there. And to finish this off, I'm actually I'm just going to check to make sure first that it's smooth. So it looks pretty good. Like I said, it was kind of the second time I had taken part of it out and then redid it. And again, you see those decreased stitches there, but they're not as disruptive on the front pattern as they were in the back. So that's it.
Phew. So that's it. So since I recorded that separately, I'm welcoming you back, but I haven't actually done the video yet. So my sweater is at the moment is still in pieces, but I'm sure it must have turned out fine, or else I would have been not even able to finish the podcast because I would have been devastated. Anyway, so that's Paisley. So now that the sleeves are in and the sewing is done, now I just have to do the button bands, which I also have never done, but the instructions are pretty clear. And if they're not clear enough, then I'm going to go online and figure out how to do the button band. And there's crochet and knitting in the button band. And then after that, it's going to do all the fun stuff like the little sequins and the crocheting around the paisleys and everything. So I'm looking forward to that. So we're making progress, and I'm learning something new with all of these next steps. So I'm pretty happy about that. I love to learn new things, obviously, and don't mind taking chances on trying new things. So that's going to be fun for the next little while. And I think I will start my next project before the next podcast is recorded. So I should have a new project to show you. And it is going to be the cowl cardigan that I showed you in the last episode with the Kid Classic Kid Classic, sorry, I was mixed up. Kid Classic in the cherry red color, because I think that's going to be really great. So that's going to be a good project and easy knitting, I think. So I always say that, and then it turns out it's not as easy as what I thought, but I think this one's going to be pretty straightforward. So what we're going to do next is actually something really fun. And I'm sure you remember Betsy from 2 episodes ago, Betsy Campbell, who is has the company Lovin Llama, and she makes crocheted llamas that have the cutest little personalities to them. So Betsy is going to teach me how to do one of the llamas, and we're just going to do the first episode of this. This will be a series of episodes that we'll do together, and the first one is going to be about choosing the supplies and just getting the llama started. So the very first thing that you do to start the llama is create, I think it's called a magic loop. She's going to teach me how to do it, and that's to start the round part of the legs. So we're going to jump over to a video of poor Betsy trying to teach me how to make these llamas. So we're going to see what kind of a student I am and what kind of an instructor she is. I'm sure she's going to be very patient, and hopefully, anyway, because I'm not sure. It's been quite a long time since I crocheted. And I actually don't think I've ever crocheted with cotton. So this is going to be a new adventure for me as well. So let's go check that out and see how that went. Hi, it's Kim and Betsy. And this is, as promised, we're going to have a little Lovin Llama lesson. That's a good alliteration, eh? Lovin Llama lesson. So Betsy's going to teach me how to make one of the little llamas.
That's the plan.
Yes. So we'll going to see how it goes.
Yeah, we got 2 newbies here, a new teacher and a new learner.
Yes, okay. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that you've got the harder job.
Maybe. We'll see.
Teaching me to do this.
We'll see.
Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to start right from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Of so I know how to crochet a little bit.
Okay.
But
yeah, you've done some.
I've held a crochet hook.
Yes.
And done,
Well, you know single stitch. You know,
exactly.
Okay, so that's
But I have no idea if I'm actually doing it right.
Oh.
So
okay.
We're going to find out. And I'm just going to tell you that my big problem when I'm crocheting is that I find it hard to count where I am.
Okay. Now, I can understand that. Maybe we can get you seeing the X's today, because knitting is V's, crochet is X's.
Oh, okay, great. See, I'm already learning something.
Well, with the single crochet, I should say, it's X's. Once you get into double and triple, it's a bit different, but we're not doing that, so you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna go. So, do we want to say what sweaters we're wearing first? Because we're both wearing hand knit sweaters.
Sure. So I am wearing. It's called Unbearable.
Yep.
And you just told me the designer, and now I've gone and forgotten.
Maxime Cyr.
Yes. Who's out of Montreal.
Right.
And I believe also does children's book illustrations.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He does.
He does have.
And then bases some of his characters that he puts into his knitting on characters he's done. With
great.
Tron. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he actually has a brand new pattern out as well. Ooh. In a brand new book that's just being published called Worsted by Aimée Gilles.
I'll have to check it out.
Yes, so nice. I'll show it to you. We just got it. So, and I'm wearing my boyfriend's sweater. It's Ken's Huxley, and it's just one of those days that you need to be comfy and cozy.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's pretty terrible out there today. So.
Yes, nasty. So now we're going to start. I've been delaying.
Okay, no problem. We can get going. Well, we might as well start with the beginning. Sorry, I'm a bit warm. I'm going to push my sleeves up. Supplies, because of course you need to know what you're having everything together before you start.
Yes.
Is a nice way to go. So for yarn, we have, today we're using Sugar and Cream, which is just a name brand of 100% cotton yarn.
Okay.
I talked about it before, but we want the cotton just for less stretch. Right. We want it to be a good solid. I should also mention, you can use acrylic for amigurumi. I just tend to stay away from acrylic because it's based on plastic. I'm trying my best to move to more natural products. So the 100% cotton also is biodegradable. So that's nice too. And then, of course, you need a neutral color, which you had chosen some of the colors you were going to use. So why don't you show us?
She actually brought all her supplies too, so I'm going to choose. And these are what I have to choose from. And we already set this up because I already chose what she wants.
Yeah.
So I'm going to choose these two.
Yeah. So she's got the color. I'll use this one here as our kind of sample.
Okay.
So she's got the color for the top. The body will be in the color, the fuchsia.
Okay.
And then the neutral, I often use cream or gray, brown. I call it a neutral. Right. For legs, muzzle, ears, and tail.
Okay.
Just to give it kind of some accent.
So mine is going to have a pretty red face, but that's fuchsia a fuchsia face, but I guess that's okay.
But then you put the cream on there and it works. I've done that color before.
Oh, have you?
It's good. Yeah,
okay.
It turns out very cute. Yeah.
There.
You've got a good combination.
All right.
So we need our yarn. Then you also need a slightly thinner yarn in black.
Okay.
I've tried embroidery floss in the past, but I ended up going with, what would you say that is? Like a sock weight, maybe?
Probably
thicker?
a DK.
A DK, okay. Just because with the embroidery, I had to do too many layers and then it got messy. Okay. So a little bit thicker black yarn, because that's going to give us our nose and our eyelashes or eyelids.
Great.
And then for actual materials, of course, we need our crochet hooks.
We've got our Rowan crochet
Rowing.
First time using one.
I use 4, even though
4 millimeter.
4 millimeter. Even though on the tag it would tell you potentially, I think, to use a larger one if you were crocheting, but we want tight.
It's 4.5.
Is what they say. Okay.
US 7.
Yeah.
And this is a G6 if you go by the letters for crochet hooks, or 4 millimeters.
Yeah, because we want it to be a tighter, smaller.
Right.
We don't want thick holes in there.
Right.
You need some darning needles.
Okay.
One that's a blunt tip.
Okay.
Because that's going to pass easily through our holes.
Right.
But then, oh, pardon me, my crochet hook dropped. We also want a sharper one, because sometimes we actually want to pierce through the stitch itself to secure the yarn a little better. And as well, once we get into these tiny details, you want to pierce right through. Of course, we'll need to stuff the llama.
Yep.
So I have been using, it's a polyester fill.
Okay.
I realize a little bit of contradiction there when I said I used the cotton yarn. This one, however, is recycled. My mom had a great big giant pillow, so she took it all apart, washed it up for me. And I thought, well, rather than pitch it, we can at least use it again.
Use it, yes.
And then we also have, this is your... Is
wool.
It wool roving? What do you call it at this point?
That's wool batting.
Wool batting at this point. Okay, so you can absolutely
excellent for
use that.
llamas and Christmas balls.
And Christmas balls.
And knitted birds, because I'm talking about knitted birds on the podcast. So
okay.
This is
so I'm hoping eventually to move over once I've worked my way through my pillow fluff.
Your giant pillow.
Then I can move over to the wool, which is then again all natural. So it's great for the environment. We need safety eyes. I already had them out. I won't open. So they're pretty tiny. These are a 10 millimeter is what we're using here.
Okay.
You can go larger. You can go smaller. It'll change the look of your llama's face and eyes. I've settled on 10 millimeter because my llamas generally come out the same size every time.
Right.
And I just like the result it's given me.
Yeah.
I've used all different ones in the past.
So how do those work?
These?
Betsy?
Oh, okay.
You have a little clip in the back?
It does. So once you've crocheted your section that it's going into, before you close it up, you poke through a hole, and then because it's still open, you can take the back piece and feed it through. And sometimes it's pretty stiff, but you just push until you hear some clicks, and then it's on.
And then it's locked, and you can't get it off. Hopefully not.
A 3-year-old with teeth and pulling can if they're determined. But it's not easy. They're not just going to fall out. I think a button with thread can be shredded a little easier than this can. So these are what they used for most stuffed animals that are made for toys.
Great.
So relatively safe. Of course, then you need any additional yarn you want to do accessories. I don't have it here today because we'll pick that later when you're ready to make accessories.
I can hardly wait to do the personality part, but I realize that comes at the end.
It does. You need to have the whole body made before. And of course you need your scissors, and I think that pretty much covers what we need in terms of supplies.
Great. Okay, so we'll put a list in the show notes.
Sounds great. So actually I'll need you to hand me one. I didn't pull one out to
What color do you want?
use. Doesn't matter. One of the neutrals is fine. I'll start a
beige.
A foot. Yeah, sounds good. All right.
So today we're just you're going to show me the stitches that I need to learn to do the legs.
Yes.
And we're just going to start the leg, and then I have homework.
Yes, because it's made from the bottom up. So legs up to the top of the head, and then ears and muzzle and tail are added later. We actually make these completely separately. And attach them. That's where our darning needles come in. Started. Now, I should mention I am a left-handed crocheter, so this could also be interesting. But mirror image.
Didn't tell me
mirror image.
Okay.
Should be okay.
Okay.
So you just do it in the hand that you're gonna do it in.
Yes, I will.
All right, so let's give this a go. Maybe we should have practiced this
no,
first.
it's okay.
No?
We're good. We're good.
No, all good. So you want to give yourself a nice size tail.
All
Because
right.
if it's too long, we
it.
can always cut it later. But if it's too short, you're out of luck.
Okay, and I think we should say again what you said at the beginning is that this is not meant to be a tutorial on the magic circle because you're not going to really be able to see very well.
Doing.
But she's going to describe it and then you can do your homework.
And as always, go check out a couple different tutorials and someone might be able to do it easier for you than someone else. So,
Okay. So the yarn is just looped over your hand.
Looped over. Yeah. Okay. Pinched in your bottom two.
Yeah.
And then you're going to bring it up in your X.
So you're making it like a gun.
X across. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. X across.
X. Okay. And then
going to come through from the outside.
Okay.
Grab your main yarn.
Yeah.
Give a downward twist.
Okay.
Then grab it again and pull it back through that loop.
Okay, the yarn is just a little bit thick for this.
It does, and it has a tendency to split. That's also a tricky bit with cotton yarn, but you kind of get used to it. There you go. So you'll know you've done it if you tug your tail a bit.
Okay.
And it shrinks your circle, but we don't want to shrink that too much.
Okay, so I'm just going to
keep using
it shrinks my circle.
Good.
All right, I'll make it bigger again.
So get your circle back out. So now you need to hold your tail with your circle.
Okay.
I apologize if I'm not looking at the camera much. I'm trying to focus.
Holding them together.
Together, yeah. And you want your loop tight up against your hook there. You're good there.
Okay.
So now we're going to see if we can do this.
Okay.
Do you have your tail? And so your mane needs to be out on your finger, ready to crochet with it. So if you were about to crochet a single crochet. So here, I'll do one. So you're going to do like a single crochet, but include... It's around the two that are there.
So I'm just going to put this towards me for a minute.
Yeah, no problem.
So I'm holding this.
Yeah, so you're going to hold your tail and your circle together.
Right.
And I can do as many of these as we need to, so that doesn't matter too much.
I'm going to put my...
See if you can figure out how my hands are there.
Okay. So
now your yarn's going to run away?
Yeah, go ahead. All right, go ahead.
So you're going to come into your circle, but you got to hang on to it.
Oh, I see. I have my, you have to hold it so that the tail and the part you're holding is closest to the inside of your hand.
So now you're going to go into the circle.
Into the circle.
Yeah, into the circle.
Yeah.
Grab your yarn.
Yeah.
Bring it through, and now you're going to hook through both your loops.
Yeah. Okay, so just like a crochet.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And through both
loops.
Yeah, both loops.
Okay. Ooh, it's really tight.
You're gonna feel that all the way through.
Okay.
You're probably gonna be like, "Oh my goodness, this is so tight. She's so close, so close."
I know it's coming, and the yarn does split. So
there you go. Are you there?
Oh,
or did you split the yarn?
I split the yarn. Okay. So we're just going to do that one more time.
Yeah.
So I can see what you're doing now, anyway. So
yes,
there we go.
Okay.
All right.
So we need to have 6 of those on our circle.
Okay, so the important part is to know that the tail and the double part of the loop is to the inside of your hand. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to go in the loop again.
In the loop again, do the exact same thing.
Get the loop and then go through both.
Yeah, a single crochet.
I'm doing it so tight. Now it's like I'm just like a new knitter that has tight tension.
Okay, there you go. Nice. Yep, that's definitely 2. Yeah. Okay. So you need 3.
In.
4. You just take your time. I'm just going to finish it off mine here.
So that's 3.
Because I want to show where we can count.
I'm hot now.
I'm warm too.
I was cold earlier, but now I'm hot.
Focusing.
Okay.
Nice.
4.
Very good. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. I'll just hold that so we don't lose it. We'll give you a bit more so you don't even have to worry about
okay.
that.
Through.
Very good. Now,
can you 5?
Yeah. Can you see that? So when you look at it, you can see that you're going to have these little. What do you call those? Actually, those are almost V's.
Yeah.
If you hold it vertical, you'll have little V's.
Right.
So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5. Yeah. So you know you need one more.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay.
So now
6.
here's the magic part. So just pull that out so you've got some extra there so we don't lose that. Now you're going to grab your tail.
Okay.
And give her a tug.
Okay.
And we should wrap, whoops, that's okay. Wrap up into
okay.
a little.
My hand is over it, so it's hard for people to see on the video. But
just keep pulling, keep pulling.
Okay. It's really stiff. So
it's
if you're
very
doing
stiff.
It's not going to
You're probably going to decide by the end of this is not very kind on hands, which it's not.
Okay. So
you should almost be, it's kind of like a horseshoe shape at the moment because with our first stitch, we'll end up
creating a gap, a little bit of a gap there,
circle.
right? Yeah. Okay.
So then you want to get your hook back in. So that is that's your magic circle, and it will be the setup for your first round.
And this is just so it's so tight inside here that it's closed.
Yes.
Yep.
So now we can begin to work in a circle, and it will create a tube for us.
So I'm going to tighten this back up on my crochet hook. Yeah.
And then that V, the very first V there, becomes your first stitch.
Okay.
So we're going to go in. So now this is going to be hard because this is extremely tight at the moment.
Okay.
This is where my calloused middle finger comes in.
So it's the first V over on the other side, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
And you want to get through there. Sometimes I've even gone down on my leg to, to get it started.
Okay. Holy smokes.
It will get a little easier as we go, I promise. This first part is the tightest.
So this is where you need a little bit of sharpness on your crochet hook.
Yes.
Okay, so
I'm
in.
Okay, so do a single crochet
which is what we just did, right?
We just did, yeah.
So between both of them, or through both of them?
Yeah, through both.
Okay.
There you go. So we want to now increase this circle from 6 stitches to 9, I believe. Let me just take a peek. Yeah. So to increase it to 9. So again, it's a mathematical thing. So you do 1 stitch in that one. In the next one, we'll put 2 stitches. So you just do exactly what you did, but you're just going to put 2 stitches in the same V. Or the same
Am I pulling it through right away too?
No. So do 1 stitch and then do another one right in that. Yep, come right through that next one.
Come through the second loop too. Okay,
and
so it's actually just exactly the same thing.
Yep, but now you're going to go in that same hole.
Holy. You have to. Okay. Oh no, it goes. It's easier.
It starts getting. You'll find some give in your yarn as we work it more too.
Okay.
Even just as it falls around on your lap.
Oh, it does split though.
Yes, it does. Yeah. And that's where having a bit of a sharper head on the hook.
Okay.
That's nice.
So, all right.
So we've done 3.
Yeah.
So now you want to go back to just 1 in the next one.
Okay.
So you're up to 4 stitches there.
So 1.
Just 1 in that one. And then again, we're going to go 2 again because that'll become stitch 5 and stitch 6.
Okay.
Those fingers are working.
It's really tight.
Stiff, yeah.
Yeah.
And you will also relax a little bit. I mean, I know we want it tight, but you're also
I'm
like
tense.
Yeah. I can see you like shaking a bit here. You're making me sweat.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get this one. This is one I'm doing 2 this time, right?
Yes, you are. Yep.
Oh, there. Okay.
Oh, just come through.
Oh,
come through there before you go again.
All right. So finish the single crochet.
And then go again in that same
I can
hole.
see now why they stand up.
Yes. I promise it will get a little loose. Well, maybe I shouldn't promise if it's your first one.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Don't drop your stitch.
No.
Okay. There you go.
Okay, got it. So now it's a single.
So the next one is 1 because that is, what is that, 7, I think?
I don't know. See, this is where...
I'll show you how to count in just a second here.
Okay.
So do 1 in the next one, and then you're going to do 2 in the next one, and that finishes that round, and I'll show you how to count. I apologize. I keep forgetting to look at you folks.
Yeah, I'm not looking at it.
We're concentrating so hard here.
So that was a single.
We haven't forgotten you.
That's a single one?
That was a single, and then finish with a double. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Or
okay, I can
an increase, I should say. Not a double, an increase.
Okay.
Finish with an increase.
This stitch is looser, so it's going to be better. Okay.
It's probably your last one you were starting to relaxed a
Yeah,
little bit into
you
it.
think I was starting to relax? I don't know. All right. Okay.
And there you go. All right, so basically you have created the very bottom of the hoof.
Okay, I
That's
can
what
see
we've
it.
done there. Yeah, we've
A
got a little
little
circle. So then to count your stitches to know if you have your proper 9,
Okay.
I always, whenever I just pull out my thing a little bit just to not risk losing my stitch.
Right.
So then this is where it's going to be tricky to show you folks, but each here is a stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and your 9th should have your yarn looping through
okay.
it.
So I think that's where I always get mixed up.
Is counting that, whether you count the 9th or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you have what you need to have there?
So
not
you start from
with
here.
one that's
okay.
not actually through the hole.
Right.
So
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
9. You're through.
Okay.
Yes.
Yay! All right.
Hey, that's impressive.
Yeah.
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 I'm pretty sure that took me like an afternoon to sit down and figure that out. Watch
It might
videos
take me
over
an
and
afternoon to get this through. Okay.
So there's
So that's the bottom of the
So
foot.
now see how you still have a little hole peeking here? That's the magic circle part. So take that tail and just pull it till there's no hole there whatsoever.
Oh, okay. It completely
Tightens it
closes.
right up.
Completely closes.
Now you can also do this doing a chain of 6 stitches and then connecting them into a circle.
Right.
But I find it never gives that complete closure the same way the magic circle does.
I've done that before.
Yeah,
where
just
you just do a chain.
you have to have been tight enough. There's no pulling to tighten it up.
Yeah, exactly.
So there you go.
Okay, so that's the first step.
That is the first step.
And the magic circle.
And the magic
then
circle,
what I'm going to do after that is follow the pattern.
Yeah, so the next one, what you're going to do those same 9 stitches.
Yeah.
This is where it's still a little bit unique yet, and then you get into just single crocheting for a good while.
Okay.
So it'll tell you to single crochet 9 back loop only.
Okay.
So that's where we go. Instead of going into this hole, these 2, normally you'd go under 2, you're just going to go into the one furthest from you.
Okay. So this is the other thing that I find. So here your loops kind of skew to the center, right?
Yes.
Your V's.
Yes.
So I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'm going to put it up close. Can you see that?
Give it a try.
I can zoom, Ken. Okay, so when I'm looking at this, I see perfect V's on one side.
Yes.
And then on the back, I see more like little lumps.
So the ones you want to be looking at as your active stitches are your perfect V's.
Okay.
Not
so
the lumps on the back.
That should be towards you, or?
Yeah. Yes, that should be towards you. So this is essentially the front of your work, or because we're going to be working in 3D, it's the outside of your work.
Okay.
So we will build up, and you will always be looking at the outside of your work.
Okay. So here is the V.
So that would be the front of the loop.
Yeah.
That's the back of the loop.
Okay.
Yeah. So you want to do 9 of those.
You're just going to single crochet through 9?
Just single crochet through 9 backs. And I'm even having a tough time.
I always want to do a double twist there, but okay, in the back loop.
Yeah. Got me so tense I can hardly get through my own.
I have that effect on people.
No. This is why I turned to crochet, because I tried to make, or crochet animals, I tried to make clothes and made rugs.
Oh.
3.
All right, I'm still using my Peter pointer to help me.
Yeah, that's fine. You'll also find, so my children actually know in life, I'm doing this, they'll come up to me. This is amazing that I'm talking and doing this at the same time, because they'll come up to talk to me and all they'll hear is 4, 5, and that's their cue to stop talking.
Yeah,
because they know I'm counting.
The same as knitting.
Yeah.
Ken's heard that a few times. 100, 101, 102.
Especially when you're counting your stitches on the cord, or that's, for me, it's a cord. And so then I have to count like 4 times and get the same number at least twice before I trust.
To feel confident. Yeah, that's right. I think we're alike. Same thing.
Now I need to make sure I actually did 9 there.
Oh, they're already starting to look a lot neater too. Eh?
Yes, they will. You know what? And we could actually, we're working here without any kind of a marker. You could put markers in too, so you know exactly where the beginning and end of your circle was.
Yeah.
But when it's like 9 stitches, I usually can count to 9 uninterrupted in my life. There was a time I could not, but now I can usually get to 9 uninterrupted.
All right. So in the back loop, and then how do you know when you're at the end?
Well, that's where we
thing.
should have counted. But we can tell a little bit. Sorry, I'm just gonna, because we want to start turning upwards.
Okay. Oh, so we're making like a little cap.
Here, yeah. So if you look at mine here, so you'll have 9 stitches where this one, you kind of have this little line going on.
Yes, there's a little line. Yeah.
And that's because we did the back loop only. So that line is actually the front of your stitch staying there. So it just gives it a nice little finished hoof. You can maybe see it.
So I have one more to do then, I think, because I don't have...
I think you do.
Yes, I think I have one more to do.
And you know what? Even if you go one too many, it's not a big deal.
It's not?
No.
Oh, okay. So
I mean, if you do it like all the time, maybe, but not tonight. We'll call it fine.
You don't know me.
So what it's creating is this flatter stitch.
Right.
So if we'd gone in both of them, her foot would have a more rounded tip to it. This allows us to make it a flat.
So she stands
Just
up.
gives it a better standing.
Oh, you know what I just did? I went through the front loop instead, I think.
Instead of the back?
Uh,
Let's double check here. Okay, so you are there.
So
I think you might be there.
yeah, I think I
Yeah,
am.
I think you are there.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
so
you should
I'm just
call
going to
it-
count because I just want to practice counting.
Sure.
So I have the loop.
I always count actually from the other side, starting just after the loop.
Yeah.
So I count that way around my circle. Yep. So 1.
Oh, they're hard to count now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're there.
Wow. Okay. And now it's already starting to be a little
Starting to be a little cap there.
cap. Okay.
Yeah, it's got just a tiny little foot to it.
Yeah. Okay. Yours actually looks.
Well, that,
Yeah.
So then you can
Okay.
kind of, and you can sort of shape it a bit already. So flatten
Yeah.
your little tip off
Yeah.
there,
Okay.
and you're good to go. So that's an amazing start.
All right. Great. So I'm glad that's where we decided we were going to stop for
Yes.
the first one.
Otherwise, we're both going to be dripping.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to do this, and I might take a little picture of my thing to put in so that people can see it
Sure.
up close. And so
And don't
then
worry,
that's
you'll
it.
get to do this magic circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's about 7 or 8 more times.
Yeah, great.
Everything starts with the magic circle.
Yeah, great. It'll be good for practice. So this part of the foot, is this your adaptation, or is
It
this
is,
from
yeah.
the real?
Well, just
the
no.
other
Actually, I
pattern?
should say the only real adaptation is that I took the back loop only part is my adaptation.
Okay.
Yeah, that is
So-
not in the original pattern.
Okay, so since there's not you don't have a pattern written yet for your,
No, not very clearly.
so they can get the pattern.
They can. Yeah.
From.
It is the hipster llama pattern.
Yes, I'll put
put the link.
I'll
Yeah,
put the link.
I don't want to
You gave-
mispronounce her
Yeah,
name.
okay. You gave
Sounds
me the
good.
link
Yeah.
before, so we'll put that in. So if you want to start this,
And you can just do her pattern, and you will still get a very similar looking
Yes.
llama.
Yeah.
I just make a few little changes
Yeah.
as I go to just give it a little bit more shape and make it a little bit more my
So
own.
if you want the square foot, not in my case, however, then you would just do the back loop on the second time around.
on the second
The increase.
9, so you'll increase to 9, and then you'll do back loop only
Right.
for 9 stitches.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Right. So, thank you, Betsy. That was fun, and now I have homework to do. So that's gonna be good. So I can hardly wait for the next step. The little legs will be done, and then we'll see what comes next. Truthfully, I'm really happy to learn about crocheting, increasing my crochet skills, but I can hardly wait till the personality part goes, because I'm not sure what kind of character I'm going to make. But I can hardly wait. That seems to be the fun thing about picking out what you're going to feature as far as the personality goes. So I hope you enjoyed that. And I will put those segments also in a separate playlist once we get done of the different episodes. And now we are going to talk about the shop update. And I'm really excited about the first thing I'm going to talk about, because Worsted, which is a new book that's been edited by Aimée Gilles, I hope I'm pronouncing her last name, from Lovin Llamas, and I think maybe it's the soft G, Gilles, so Aimée Gilles. And it is published by Laine, and you know that we love Laine books. I am not going to show it live here because it's just on its way. It actually launches on November 26th, so we'll have it by the end of this week. And I am so excited about this book because the book is all the patterns are using worsted weight yarn, and I am loving knitting with worsted weight yarn. It knits up relatively quickly, but you get a really nice fabric. So this is worsted weight that I'm wearing, as I mentioned, in Even Dune. And Lovin Llamas has launched a worsted yarn as well, but it's in really selective places, and I double checked the specs of that yarn versus our worsted, and it turns out they're exactly the same. So it's exactly the same weight. The put up is a little bit different. Her yarn is put up at 250 yards for 100 grams, and we put up the Selkirk worsted at 200 yards for 80 grams. So you just need to be aware of that if you're purchasing for any of those patterns out of the book. But the weight, the actual specs of the yarn, like the yardage to gram ratio, is exactly the same. So our yarn should work in all of these patterns. And the book features patterns by Stephen West, Nora Gahn has done a pattern, Andrea Mowry, and a lot of other great designers. And there's 14 patterns, and it features 10 different designers. So I can hardly wait for that book to arrive, and it would make a great gift for somebody if you're looking for things to purchase for the holidays. So we'll have that in stock by the time you're watching this. So I looked at some of the previews of some of the pictures, and there's a couple sweaters there that I would like to knit as well. So, but I can't knit them right now. I have to wait and do what I have in my queue already. But the book, I'll show a few pictures here, and you'll see what kind of treats are in store in that book, Worsted. So there's lots to be knitted, all in worsted weight, which knits up relatively quickly. So there's some really great projects there. So the next thing that I wanted to show in the shop update is something that's backed by popular demand, and I'm just going to reach over and grab it. So the next thing I want to show in the shop update is actually something that you don't have to knit. It's backed by popular demand, and it is the hand knitted socks. So these socks are knit by Janet Joyce, who works in the mill with us. Janet does all of the carding mostly now of the wool, and she also has learned to spin. So she's doing some of the spinning, and she also knits with a knitting machine. So she's used our natural black lamb's wool, and she's knit more socks that we've featured these before, but we made more of the yarn, and we had her knit up more socks. So what she does is she knits them on a knitting machine that goes back and forth like this. It's not a cranker one, it goes back and forth, and then she has to sew up the rib and that kind of thing. So they're handmade, they're just not hand knitted. And here they are again. They are really, really lovely socks. They're very, very soft and comfortable, and she's made them in 4 sizes. So this is actually the small size, and there's more details on the website if you want to purchase. So she did small, medium, large, and extra large, and I believe the extra large goes up to a man's 11 size foot. So there's a couple pairs of those at size 11. So if you've got a man or somebody that you want to buy for that likes their socks or needs their socks larger, then there are a couple pairs of extra large. So these are back up on the website. They sell out really quickly, but she can only knit as fast as she can knit. So we may make more later, but we've got quite a few pairs, more than what we had before, and you can check those out. I can't stop feeling them because they're really, really, really cozy. And she actually even uses her eucalyptus to soak them, so they're all they smell really good. She uses jasmine. So we also carry eucalyptus. If people don't know that, you can buy that on the website. And every time we ship out an order, you get a little pot of eucalyptus because we just love it. And eucalyptus actually provides us with those pods, so we need to thank them for helping us out with that, because that's really nice. And if you haven't used your pod yet in any order that you got, then I suggest that you try it, because it just leaves such a nice feeling with your knitwear. So, handmade socks on the website. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is we have restocked our yarn buddies and our Nosta pins. So these yarn buddies are made by Scott Hubley, who has Fox Mountain Spindles. And this is just the yarn buddy by itself. We have them separately. If you want the Swift and the yarn buddy, they come together when you buy the Swift. You can convert the Swift to a yarn buddy. We've showed that many times, so I'm not going to show it again here. But you can buy the yarn buddy just by itself. And the way that if people are wondering why you need a yarn buddy, it's because it moves your yarn as smooth as silk, and it really helps you to maintain tension. It's the perfect accompaniment if you're balling your yarns by hand to use your Nosta pins. So Scott also makes these Nosta pins, and this is to wind your ball of yarn. And once you have your yarn wound on the Nosta pin, it fits perfectly onto the yarn buddy like this. So I'm a big fan of the Nosta pin. I think all of my balls of yarn that I use with the Nosta pin, because this is what I love about it. That Nosta pin gives a nice firm ball. You can pull from the center, or you can pull from the outside. It works both ways. But what I like about the balls of yarn that are wound on the Nosta pin is that they stay intact right down till they're little tiny like that, and they don't fall apart on you. So I really I have ball winders, but I use my Nosta pin all the time and I don't know, ball by hand, I guess is the way to say it. So this is that, the yarn buddy, with a little bit of this is a knitting sample that I have in the shop that I show every example of anything that I do on this poor little swatch. So that's it's actually an Aran weight yarn on here if anybody wants, if you have a question, if you need to know that. So Scott's things are back in stock in the shop, the Nosta pins, the yarn buddy. We also have some Swifts left, and the Swift is transforms into a yarn buddy, so you don't need to buy a separate yarn buddy. And we also have some Gilgans and drop spindles that Scott makes for us as well, so you can check those out in the shop. So after getting those things out of the way, which are all year round things, I wanted to talk a little bit about the holidays are coming, and I wanted to talk about items that are kind of specific about that. So in the last newsletter, we showed some colored yarns that are perfect for doing holiday projects. So I'm going to just review those again. I'll first talk about books that we have. So we, of course, have the 55 Christmas Balls to Knit by Arne and Carlos. So this book is it's a paperback, like a paperback book edition, and this was relaunched on their 10th anniversary of knitting these patterns. And if anybody doesn't know about Arne and Carlos and their Christmas balls, then you need to go check it out. They're just really delightful patterns to make these knitted Christmas balls. And they used, I'm not sure which yarn they used when they wrote the book, but they did a whole series of new balls last year that you can still buy the patterns for on their website. And they used Rowan Alpaca Classic to knit them. And they used, instead of the traditional like bright red, they used this deep rose color and Simply White and Clover to knit their balls from last year. So you can go on your website and you can find the 2020 patterns, or you can buy the 55 balls to knit for. They use them as an advent calendar. So there was 24 new ones that were done last year. There's 55 in this book that are all different. And these are the yarns that they used to make the balls for the advent calendar last year. Now this year they have, Rowan has given them their own line of yarns. So they have this Norwegian wool, and this is a worsted weight yarn that Arne and Carlos designed with Rowan. And this year's Christmas patterns that they're featuring on their website are knit from this yarn. So we have this in stock as well. And the colors are Ribbon Red, Cloud Dancer, and Emerald. So really good Christmas colors. And they also have patterns for Christmas stockings and so forth, so you can knit those projects out of this yarn as well. And these are the 3 colors that they're featuring for their Christmas items. Again, it's Ribbon Red, Cloud Dancer, and Emerald. Just one more, since it's specific what colors they were using in the Alpaca Soft DK. It's the Simply White, Deep Rose, and Clover. Then I got into the swing of things and picked out colors from our own yarns that could also be used for projects for Christmas. So in the worsted weight yarn that we have chosen Fur, which is a dark green, and there's Natural, which is just natural. There's no dye in it. It's not bleached either, so it's natural. And we're using Bonfire as the red for our projects that we're doing. And at first I thought this was kind of orangey, but when I put it against what would be considered a true red with the red ribbon, they're almost similar. It's a little bit more orange than the Ribbon Red, but it definitely fits the bill. So this makes a great combination in our Selkirk worsted yarn. And we have lots of other reds. If you don't like the orangey bright one, there's also rhubarb and other reds that you can match with the fur. And then we also pulled out this combination in our sock yarn. So if you haven't finished all your Christmas socks yet, there's still time. We have this in stock. This is just going to pop off here. I'm just going to put this back together. So also fur and natural, and this is rhubarb. So, and that's in the point prim sock yarn. They're really gorgeous together. The colors are a little bit, well, fur and natural are obviously the same, but you can see it gives quite a different tone with the rhubarb. That it's a little bit more muted. So you could have the, like I said, in the in worsted, if you didn't want the bonfire, you could also use rhubarb for your red. So you have lots of choices there for Christmas knitting. And I just dumped something on the floor, so I'm just going to pick that up. The other book that I wanted to feature, because I love it and I haven't featured it in a while, and it kind of reminds me of winter and kind of a winter theme, is the Arne and Carlos Knitted Birds, the Field Guide to Knitted Birds. This is one of the cutest books that I've ever seen. I just love it. There's all these beautiful birds. And there's more here on the back cover as well that you can see. And I'm also, there's also the centerfold. These are all of the birds that you get the patterns for. And we have that on the website. They're just super cute and a good variety. I'm just going to make sure you can see the whole thing with this little centerfold in here. I just love it. It's so funny. When we first discovered it, it was hilarious because we didn't know that there was a centerfold in there, and we just happened to discover it by chance. And then there is also one in the back. Yeah, so they're actually using have their birds on a wreath as well. So there, it's really cute. Anyway, that's a great book and really fun. And this comes in we have it in the hardcover. So that's the Knit It Birds to Knit. So one more thing in the shop update. We talked about in the last podcast about we're able to get a good supply of wool from a flock of sheep here on Prince Edward Island for our flock fingering, which is a 3-ply fingering weight yarn, which is 100% wool. So it's around the same weight as our sock yarn, but instead of having mohair in it, it's 100% wool. And we decided to launch 3 new colors. So the last podcast, we launched pansies, autumn birch, and thistle blossom. And this week we're launching, we launched it last week, so the people that signed up for the newsletter already know about this, but we're launching bramble. So this is by far our most popular variegated color that we make, bramble. It's kind of dark, so I'm not sure if you can see it or not. I'm going to try to make it a little bit more in the light. Anyway, it's on the website. And to harmonize with the bramble, we have A Night Without Stars, which is navy blue, and that picks up hints of the blue in the bramble. And we also launched Fox and Kids. So Fox and Kits is halfway between, it's an orangey brown, but it's one of those really versatile colors, and it goes beautifully with bramble. And I'm just going to pick to a spot where you can see, if you can see how it picks up the sparks in bramble. Anyway, these 3 are the next 3 colors for flock fingering. I'm not sure if we'll do any more colors, but now we've got the selection of the 6 colors, and it's really nice. It's very, I talked about this the last time. It has a very different texture. This is a flock of sheep that are mixed breeds, and they're really, really hardy. They're meant to be, the genetics that were chosen so that they could be raised outside. So they're being raised outside. They live on a farm which has huge fields of grass. So they eat grass all summer and spring. And then the farmer that has them has a really thick hedgerow that is really wide. So really wide hedgerows with lots of fir trees in it. And what he's done is he has cut out spaces underneath the fir trees so that there's not a lot of branches there. So the sheep can actually go quite far into the hedgerow. It's pretty wide. I was in there where the sheep live, and you can't see the edges once you're in the middle there. And it is like I don't know how to describe it. It's like a forest cathedral in there, because he's trimmed all of the undergrowth and all of the branches up to about the height of a person. So you can walk in there, and it's just like he's made this shelter for them, and it's so healthy. The hedgerow is really healthy, so all of the fir trees are all intertwined on the top, and he's got straw down inside there so that it can't really get wet in there, I don't think. And if it gets a little bit wet, it's no problem, but especially if it's cold, the snow would all be trapped on the top of the trees. But I climbed in there, or walked in there, and I was like, I want to live here. It's so beautiful and cozy where these sheep live, and they're out all the time. So it's just, I don't know, it's partly the breeds. Obviously, they were chosen to be able to live in that environment. They're old-fashioned breeds for the most part, and it's a mixed flock, and the wool is just lovely. It's really special, I have to say. So we're really happy that we found that, and we can make the flock fingering of it. So that's it for the shop update. So there's quite a lot of stuff going on. We're making yarn like crazy, and we're making the yarn obviously for what we're selling now, but we're also already starting to stock up for the Fibre Festival. So the Fibre Festival committee has met a couple times now. There is a group of people, a small group of people that are managing it. So we're not managing it. There's people that are doing that, but we're on the committee. So, or I'm on the committee. So I'm getting all the updates as they go. But they really started now to start really reaching out to all of the vendors that had signed up to participate at the Fibre Festival last year. They've all been contacted, and they will do a call for vendors for anybody. So the way that it was working is that the vendors that had signed up for last year were all contacted first. So they've been contacted now and told that they can renew their application to attend the Fibre Festival, or they can decline. So if they no longer want to participate, then they'll decline. Once that's all settled, so they know how many people have booths and how many booths are left over, they will do an open call for vendor. And the best way to keep up to date about what's happening with that is to sign up to the PEI Fibre Festival newsletter. There's a website for the PEI Fibre Festival, and you can sign up for the newsletter there. And if you want to know what's going to happen, the call for vendors will be talked about there and will be featured on the Instagram. There's a Fibre Festival Instagram as well. And they'll get the word out about when you can apply. And there'll also be a call for instructors for the workshops. So the same thing will happen for the workshops. Anybody that was already chosen to do a workshop will be contacted first. And if there's any changes to the lineup, then they'll do another call for more workshops if they need to. And there's going to be some presentations. There's still going to be a ceilidh, like what we were talking about 2 years ago. We were supposed to have it. There'll be a ceilidh for entertainment on the Friday and Saturday night. And we're really getting excited because it seems like it can actually happen this year. So we're busy in the mill spinning yarn as we always are, but we've actually already started spinning in preparation for the Fibre Festival. So we're really excited and happy to be doing that, and we're stockpiling our yarns to get ready. So check out the Fibre Festival newsletter, and you can you'll be communicated to regularly about what's happening with the Fibre Festival. And again, that's in September 2022. It's on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th of September. The committee is also organizing blocks of rooms as we had last year. I don't think that's completed yet, but the group that's managing the whole thing is on that as well. So they'll notify people through the newsletter when that's done too. So I think that's it for this week, and we're just going to go to the harmony part. And I don't know what it is this week. I haven't chosen yet, so it'll be a surprise. And we hope that you enjoy it and have a little bit of peace and harmony while you're watching it. Enjoy the music selection. And I hope to see you back here in 2 weeks. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, then I would ask you to subscribe. If you liked the video, you can give a thumbs up. And as always, I read every single comment and I reply to every single comment. And I want to thank everybody that comments, and I just love reading them. And you can also hit your notifications so that you never miss a podcast, because you'll be notified of when I've published one. So have a great 2 weeks. I'm wishing you lots of joy in the next 2 weeks, and stay safe. And we'll see you back here in 2 weeks' time. Bye.